Welcome to this week's edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Ken Campbell. I am the sidekick Dylan Waugh. I am the Steve Van Zandt to Ken's Bruce Springsteen, or the Silvio to Ken's Tony Soprano. Same guy, both me. Today we're going to be talking about Brad Marchand, the Olympics, Tuuka Rask retiring, and so much more to get to with this week of news. It's going to be wild. Stick around and find out. Ken, how are you?
Not bad. I see you more as a Paulie Walnuts.
Who?
He's on The Sopranos.
Oh, Paulie.
Yeah, Paulie Walnuts.
Yeah, this guy. He always talks with the. My wife and I were doing that for so long after watching The Sopranos, and then we watched The Sopranos while she was pregnant, and then she had the baby, and when she was a good eater, we were going like, she's a good eater.
Perfect.
Yeah. Sopranos references abound in my household.
Okay.
But no, at last I'm the guitar player, Steve Van Zandt.
I know.
Is it because I'm going gray at the sides?
Yeah. Just the sides.
Just
though.
the sides. Yeah.
All right.
Boy, we've got a lot to get to on this
episode.
So let's start off with the big hitting news. Tuuka Rask is expected to retire.
Correctamundo.
And last week, we were just talking about, what's his name? Henry Winkler the other day. Yeah. Last week we talked about Henrik Lundqvist and whether he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. And so this week, it's only fair that we ask the same thing to Tuuka Rask. What do you think? Is he in the Hall?
Is he in the Hall? Well, it's an interesting question because I think the question is not, is he a Hall of Famer? Because whether or not Tuuka Rask is a Hall of Famer is going to be up to 18 people who get together on a Sunday afternoon, seriously, and hash this out and decide with no accountability and no transparency. So if they decide he's a Hall of Famer, he's a Hall of Famer. I think the question is, should he be a Hall of Famer? And in my mind, he's close. He's borderline, but I don't think he quite gets there.
Yeah.
He's got the cup, but it was as a backup after he lost the crease because he had it the year before.
Yeah.
Lost the crease to Tim Thomas in the playoffs. Got them to 2 finals, was very, very good through those playoffs, was not so good in some really crucial moments in those finals, in both of those finals. Mm-hmm. Game 7 against St. Louis. I mean, I think the entire Boston Bruins team laid an egg, but he was right there laying it with them. So I put him in kind of the Mike Vernon, Chris Osgood category. Really good at times, but not quite good enough to be great. It'll be interesting, I think, because we're going to see sort of what the pattern's going to be in the next couple of years. No goalie has gotten into the Hall of Fame since 2016 when for whatever reasons I can even begin to figure out that they inducted Rocky Vachon 34 years after his career ended.
Yep.
That was the last goalie to get in, but now we're going to have a bit of a run here because this year, Roberto Luongo's up.
Right.
Next year, Hank is up.
Yeah.
In 2023, and in 2024, Ryan Miller's up. So I think what happens with those guys will be a pretty good bellwether as to whether or not Tuuka Rask gets in. Like if Henrik Lundqvist doesn't get in, and I think he's going to, all those other guys can forget it probably.
Yeah.
Like if you're basing it on comparisons, but again, you just never know what the Hall of Fame selection committee is going to do, what they're going to think, who they're going to listen to, who they're going to be swayed by. But I don't, in my mind, he's not a Hall of Famer. His body of work isn't that extensive. When you look at it, he's been around for a long time, but I mean, he's 33 in wins, 33rd in wins. He's got 308 wins.
Yep.
3 more than Billy Smith, but then you look like the playoff resumes don't match up, right? That's why Billy Smith's in the Hall of Fame. So, in the end, long-winded answer, long way of answering a short question. No, I don't believe he is Hall of Fame caliber.
Yeah.
But I suppose we'll find out in the next couple of years.
My brother was part of a folk duo in the 90s, and one of his songs was about Art Garfunkel dying and meeting Salieri in heaven and basically just being these always outshined people.
Wow.
Right? That were brilliant in their own respects, but were just always outshined. Anyways, very dark, but you just reminded me of that when you talked about Tuuka Rask.
Of course I did.
Why wouldn't you? All right, so this is the one that obviously I have some strong feelings about. First of all, I agree with you. I don't think that he's a Hall of Famer. I was actually thinking about comparing Rask to Lundqvist last week when we were talking about Lundqvist. And so here's what I'm going to say. Generations of goaltenders seem to be very much divided in threes, right?
Okay.
You've got like Terry Sawchuk, Glenn Hall, Jacques Plante.
Right.
Maybe Johnny Bauer's in there, but he came in a little bit later than those guys. But like that was the generation. Right. Those guys ran the roost. Then you got Dryden, Esposito, and Vladislav Tretiak. Right? Those guys ran the 70s. Now, if I guess maybe
Bernie Parent too.
I was going to say Bernie Parent if you want to take out Tretiak and be all NHL biased.
Yeah.
But I would say Tretiak, right?
Or if you think Tretiak's overrated, which I do. I do.
I've got a funny story about his goalie school, but we can save that for another day because I got enough here.
Yeah.
And then you've got Waugh, Hasek, and Trevor Kidd. Marty Brodeur, who, by the way,
and
was
Ed Belfour nipping at the periphery there.
But here's the thing, and I've got in brackets, an argument could be made for Ed Belfour or Curtis Joseph, but the fact is that the best goalie of all time is one of Waugh, Hasek, or Marty Brodeur.
Yeah, and it's Hasek.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I won't argue with anybody saying any of those three.
Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. It's over.
Yeah.
It's Hasek.
My point is that you like Belfour in another generation would have been one of those three. But we're talking about the greatest generation of goaltenders, right?
Right.
In this generation, and this generation I've defined as people who've had their primes line up at least about 4 or 5 years with each other.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
There's Price, Luongo, Lundqvist, Fleury, Miller, Bobrovsky, Holtby, Rene, Rask, Quick, Mike Smith, and Corey Crawford, and there's not a huge drop-off in any of that list. Now, you can make that list any way you want, but none of those guys you say, no, that's tier 2.
Yeah, so you're not putting Vasilevsky in that group. He's sort of the next.
Young.
He's sort of the next part.
Yeah,
because he's already in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, big time.
Like, because seriously,
big time.
He is so projecting to be one of the greatest goalies of all time.
Yeah.
Like, it's ridiculous.
Completely agree.
So,
Completely agree.
Okay.
And so, in order to get into the Hall of Fame within this class, you have to do something. It's either your body of work or what you contributed to the sport.
Okay.
And so Lundqvist, I said yes because he contributed something to the sport, but Rask is just an excellent goalie in a generation of excellent goaltenders.
Yeah.
And he didn't really contribute anything because I think that Carey Price makes it in because he contributed a lot to the position, right? He was the measuring stick for like 10 years for goaltenders. So I think that Carey Price makes it in, but Rask, like you said, he won a cup as a backup goalie.
Right. And got there twice as a starter.
Yeah.
He was great in the 2005 World Juniors.
Oh, yeah.
He was great.
Yeah, big time.
I think it was 2005, Vancouver. The one where Justin Pogge didn't have to do anything to win a gold medal.
Yeah.
Like he was lights out in that tournament, but that's not like stuff like that isn't enough.
So last point of this, more proof of the parody of today. Between 2008, when Rask played his first NHL game, and 2021, do you know how many different goalies won the Vezina?
What years?
Between 2008 and 2021.
So that's a total of 14 years?
Yeah.
I'll say 9?
12.
12. Okay.
12. Only 2 repeats in Tim Thomas and Sergei Bobrovsky.
Right, okay.
And Tim Thomas I didn't put into that group because, again, I don't think that his prime lined up enough with other people's primes.
And plus, his body of work isn't big enough.
It's not that big.
He started real late. What I will
13 years before that, do you know how many people won the Vezina?
3.
7.
Okay.
But my point is that there's this
yeah.
parody now that exists that didn't exist before.
Yeah. What I will say about Tuuka Rask is that for 10 years, the Boston Bruins had zero concerns about goaltending.
Yeah.
Like that's incredible to me. Like it's incredible that you go that long.
Right.
Like even if you have a Carey Price, you're concerned about your goaltending right now in Montreal, right?
Yeah.
Sergei Bobrovsky.
Yeah. Samuel Montembeault starter.
There's some times when you're concerned about like last year with Sergei Bobrovsky and the year before.
Right.
Like to go 10 years and to know that you've got above average to elite goaltending, like that's huge. That is huge.
Yeah.
But still, not enough. Close, but not enough.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, like you said, the distinction is that this conversation is, do we think that he's deserving to be in the Hall of Fame?
Right.
And we seem to be on the same page.
I just to belabor this a little more. I'm not a big one for this guy's in, so this guy should be in. I don't like that.
Two wrongs don't equal a right.
Exactly. You don't correct mistakes by making more mistakes. Right? Where was I going with this?
In terms of
yeah. Oh, yeah. So I'm not big on that, but like you look and like Tom Barrasso's not in the Hall of Fame.
Right, exactly.
How do you not have Tom Barrasso in the Hall of Fame and then have
Tuuka Rask,
or for that matter, even a Henrik Lundqvist, in my opinion.
Right.
I mean, Barrasso won he came out of high school, won the Vezina Trophy.
Yeah.
And the Calder Trophy, 2 cups. Like what, like he was a jerk.
Yeah.
I experienced it firsthand a couple of times because he actually played in Toronto for a very, very, very brief time.
Yeah.
Like jerk, massive jerk, but that's neither here nor there. You judge what he did on the ice.
Yeah. My understanding is that there may be more than a couple of jerks in the Hall of Fame. I mean, Hall of Fame.
Oh, did I say that?
Did I? Yeah. Whoops. So, do you want to move on? I think that we've.
Yeah, I think we pretty much beat that into a carcass.
I've got like this much notes on like the goaltending, and then like the rest of my answers are like this.
Okay, good. So you won't be talking as much.
Yeah, I plan to just shut right up after this.
I think that helps. I think that'll be a good thing.
Yeah, I've just got pithy comments after this.
Pithy. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Why are you getting so pithy?
I'm not, he said pithily. It was a short and strong answer, is what it was.
Right on. Okay.
Boy. That was a really good one, Ken.
Oh, thanks.
Before we move on to the next thing, I just want to say, please subscribe, kencampbell.substack.com. Like this podcast, take some time to leave a review. Very helpful. Subscribe to the podcast on either Apple Podcasts or YouTube or wherever you want to get your podcasts. And again, for this podcast and more writing directly into your inbox, kencampbell.substack.com. Let's move on to the next point. Sticking with the Boston Bruins, Brad Marchand just continually sabotages himself by doing stupid things. And the other night, last night for us, as we're recording, going after Tristan Jarry, given his rap sheet, how many games does he get for that one?
It's interesting because it's all over the map on social media, right? Like there's some people like, it's like, oh, come on. He didn't do anything, didn't hurt anybody. He should get an in-person hearing and he should be at least 6 games or whatever. It'd probably fall in the middle a little bit. Like he just got suspended 2 months ago, eh?
Yeah. And that's a pre.
And he's got 7 suspensions. Like, come on. Like, it bugs me because I love Brad Marchand. I love him.
Right.
I love the way he plays the game. I think his talent is, really gets overshadowed by the stupid stuff that he does.
Yeah.
I almost said it. By the stupid stuff that he does. I love him as a player, and I really like him as a person. I've talked to him a couple of times.
Yeah.
I really like him. He's a good guy. Like it's interesting because it's so weird because like it's always that way, right? Like the goons, the guys who were enforcers in the 80s and everything.
Oh, yeah.
They were the biggest teddy bears going off the ice, right? Yeah. Like they were the first ones to go to the hospital and visit kids who were sick and do all the charity work. And they were so nice and everything. And then, they put on some hockey equipment and they lose their minds. But, you keep thinking, oh, maybe Brad Marchand's gotten it, and that's why he's playing so well. And then he does something like last night. And I mean, I know, he didn't, the end result wasn't devastating, but usually the way the inaptly named player safety department works is that they take into account the result in the length of the suspension, not in whether or not he should be suspended.
Right.
So the act itself is in isolation that way. And it was pretty bad. Like, it was pretty bad, especially when he got a stick in there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think he's got to sit for at least 3, maybe 4. Not 10, but he's got to sit for a couple.
So, I mean, I've given up on guessing what the aptly named Department of Player Safety.
Good on you. That's a good move by you. That's a good move by you, because you don't have their wheel of justice, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I've given up on that, but here's what I'll say. In sucker punching specifically in this sport makes me so angry.
Yeah.
Firstly, I agree with you. Like, even as a Habs guy, like, Marchand's a fun guy to watch. And like last night when he was stopping Crosby from getting a stick, like, that is just such a good way to get under somebody's skin. Doesn't hurt nobody, but just will piss you off to no end. Like, that's just such a great move. But if we have a sport, and I know that you have strong feelings about fighting in this sport, and if we have a sport that says you're allowed to fight because you need a pressure valve, right? And that's the argument. Okay,
right.
So I accept your premise that we need a pressure valve.
I don't.
No, but I'm just let's hypothetically say I accept your premise that we need a pressure valve. Then why is it then okay to sucker punch a guy? You already have the pressure valve.
Right.
You already have a way that you're allowed to punch a guy. So and Chara used to do it in the scrums where you just see a little fist fly out of the scrum and then he'd skate out of the scrum. And Marchand has done it on several occasions where he sucker punched a guy. I think that a sucker punch should be like 20-game suspension.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I think it should just be like completely gotten out of the game because, I don't know if it's apocryphal or not, but the story about Harry Houdini died from a sucker punch.
Right.
I don't know if that's true.
Apparently, yeah, because he used to let guys punch him in the stomach. And
he did like 100 sit-ups a day.
And he talked about how strong his abdominals were.
Yeah.
But then some big guy drilled him when he wasn't
paying attention.
When he wasn't ready for it.
Yeah.
And now that's what I think so. That's what my dad told me anyways.
Yeah, that's what my mom told me.
I'm going with that.
Yeah. But my point is that if you're going to have the premise that we need fighting in the game to have a pressure valve, then make that the pressure valve.
Right.
Get rid of the sucker punches. I would rather see a guy square off against another guy than see some poor unsuspecting victim just get decked in the side of the head. And I don't care about what the result is, because at the end of the day, okay, so he's not concussed maybe. We don't know because we don't have the news yet, right?
Right.
But let's say he's not concussed. Great. That doesn't mean that what he did was any better.
Right.
That just means that you got lucky.
Right.
And the fact is that head injuries, concussion is more of a buzzword than anything. Because head injuries are cumulative and you don't need to be concussed to wind up with CTE. You can have no concussions in your whole life, but if you've gotten repeated head injuries, you can still get CTE. So concussion or not, it drives me crazy.
It's interesting. I think you bring up a really good point. And for all the faults of the player safety department, and there are many, they do tend to frown on this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, they really frown on stick work, and they frown on things like sucker punch, and they're always George Peros's big thing is willing combatant.
Right.
You have to be a willing combatant. If you're not a willing combatant, then then it seems a little more egregious if a guy does something to a guy who's not a quote unquote willing combatant.
Right.
I can't believe that's just accepted as part of the vernacular in this sport. Anyways, but Tristan Jarry was not a willing combatant.
No chance.
Yeah.
And so, I would be doing away with the sucker punches. If it were up to me, I would keep fighting in the game, but any form of premeditated fighting, any form of stage fight, and that would be automatic suspensions, and sucker punches would be automatic suspensions.
Yeah, but you know what? That's what you get. Like,
I know. It's
there's
a culture.
there's already 5 pages of fighting rules in the rule book. Yeah. Like it's the rule that takes up the most space in the rule book.
No chokeholds
of any rule in hockey.
Yeah.
And now, just take it out. Just take it out. Because if you take it out, then you don't have any of these things happening.
Yeah.
It's conceivably.
Yeah. And there are sports, violent sports, football, rugby, etc., that have virtually no fighting. Right?
Virtually no fighting. Yes.
Yeah.
And the argument that you need the safety valve, that's where I think it falls flat on its face. Because I think players in other sports are every bit as passionate and every bit as as physical and every bit as hot and they want to win just as much as anybody else, anybody who plays hockey. It's not something that's unique to hockey that people are competitive.
Well, do you Ken Dryden obviously wrote a book about this, maybe more than one. And one of the things that he said was that fighting, the original idea was that you didn't want people hitting each other with their sticks.
Right.
Because their sticks were these big, heavy wooden things, and so the fists were less damaging. Well, now the sticks are these light, whatever things where
carbon fiber,
and they wouldn't do the same damage as a solid piece of hickory.
Right.
But these players are machines now.
Yeah.
Right. They're athletic machines. And so all of a sudden, where the fists were only so dangerous back then, but the sticks were very dangerous.
Right.
The sticks are now less dangerous and the fists are much more dangerous.
Yeah.
Getting a hit by, there's exceptions to this rule. I mean, we've probably both seen the picture of Gordie Howe fishing.
Yeah.
I don't think I want to get punched by him.
No.
But, I think that there's a point to be made for that in terms of this original idea of the pressure valve.
Right. And with fighting, it's interesting. We could talk about another incident too. Marcus Foligno last night.
Yes.
With the knee in the fight.
Yes.
And he still said heat of the moment. It was heat of the moment.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Which brings us to
wait.
I had a moment. That's what I want. That's what I want Brad Marchand to say.
Yes.
When he's standing in front of George Peros. I had a moment.
That was your best tweet in several months.
It was, eh?
That was your best tweet in several months. I showed it to everyone I know. It was great. It was, for those that didn't see it and follow Ken Campbell _27. It's actually here.
Something like that.
Ken _Campbell 27. It's on my computer here.
Okay.
Follow Ken _Campbell 27 on Twitter. But for those that don't know, Ken tweeted, I hope that Brad Marchand goes to George the Violent Gentleman Peros and says, I had a moment.
And I've done a bunch of other really good things.
Yeah, and I've done a bunch of other really good things.
And just see how that works out for him.
Yeah, exactly.
Just see.
Yeah.
Give it a shot.
Yeah.
Well, as they say, the time is nigh. Super Bowl 56 coming up Sunday afternoon, and unless you cheer for the Cincinnati Bengals or the LA Rams, your team missed the big game this year. But MyBookie's double deposit bonus makes sure that you won't. Sign up at MyBookie now using my promo code Hockey Unfiltered, all one word, to have your first deposit matched instantly so you can get in on all the action of Super Bowl 56. The only way watching the biggest game of the year could get any better is to get paid doing it. And MyBookie gives you everything you need to do it. With double your money, you can double your winnings. And the best starting point for the big game is with Super Bowl prop bets. Whether it's on or off the field, there's no shortage of wagers to choose from for the Super Bowl. So get in on the action, let the confetti fall, and walk away a winner. Don't miss out. Head to MyBookie and double your first deposit up to $1,000 by using promo code Hockey Unfiltered, all one word. Place your bets and get ready for the unmatched excitement of the Super Bowl. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie.
All right. Okay. Well, I think we've done fighting to death. So now let's go to the part of hockey that has absolutely no fighting whatsoever.
The Olympics.
The Olympics. The men's tournament at the Olympics. Beijing
Are we
Olympics.
that far already? Holy cow, we're just plowing through these.
I think that I've been so upbeat that it's been so fun that time is flying. I don't think that we're plowing through this.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I'm making it seem as though we are. The Olympics starts today. Do you care?
The Olympics did not start today.
Pardon me.
The men's tournament in the Olympics starts
I think
today.
I said men's before, but I had that false start. So,
Yeah, okay. All right. Okay.
Let's redeem this sentence now.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't you hate it when bad things happen to good sentences? The men's hockey tournament in the Olympics at Beijing 2022 starts today.
Yep.
Who do you got? Do we care? What team excites you?
I care.
Yep.
I'm intrigued. I'm
think so,
intrigued.
yeah.
I'm quite intrigued, actually. I think it'll be interesting. And you know what's the thing is that okay, the hockey won't be NHL caliber.
No.
It won't be NHL caliber, but that doesn't mean it can't be exciting. You know what I mean? Because I've found in a lot of ways, the worse the players are, the more entertaining they are because they make more mistakes. They, all those other things, right?
You wouldn't be saying that if you were covering the Montreal Canadiens this year.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
It's not entertaining at all.
No, it's not. Wow. Wow.
I know. I had another stinker to sit through last night. I'll tell you.
Nice. Yeah. So anyways, but I mean, generally speaking, as when the group of players is all of the same caliber and they're not as good. Yeah. Sometimes it can make for some very entertaining hockey. So I'm waiting to be entertained. I like Canada. I think that they've got a load of experience. I worry that Canada, well, I don't worry because I don't, it doesn't really make a big difference to me whether or not they win or not.
You don't lose sleep over this Canada team?
No, I don't. But
Adam Cracknell might not be good this year.
If I were a Canadian, I would be worried that they don't have enough players in that 24 to 28 range. They got a bunch of old guys and a bunch of young guys and nobody in between.
Yeah.
For entertainment value, I like the Czechs. I think the Czechs are going to be sneaky good.
Yep.
And for entertainment value, I just cannot wait to see what these kids in the US are going to do. I just can't wait. That to me is going to be must viewing. And I hope Jake Sanderson, I know the last reports were that he was still behind and he was waiting to be cleared. I sure hope he gets to come and play because I think he would be a really good player to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and this is like a very Canadian-centric viewpoint, so I'm well aware of that, but it's kind of going to be interesting to see the Canadians as an underdog. Now, last Olympics, they were also an underdog.
Were they?
Yeah, I think that last Olympics, it was pretty clear that the Russian Olympic athletes or Olympic athletes from Russia were the
right.
The team to beat.
They were the team to beat. Yeah.
But this year, the Canadians are an underdog that I think has a chance. And now no other country in the world is looking at Canada and saying an underdog.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
But this is just because we're used to seeing the most dominant rosters of all time. We're used to seeing Weber and Pietrangelo combined for 400 slap shots on some poor 17-year-old Latvian kid.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So this is kind of like an underdog story, and the guys on the team, for the most part, are likable. Eric Stahl is a likable guy. Mm-hmm. David Desharnais is a likable guy. Mm-hmm. And then even the young kids that are on the team are likable. Yeah. And so it's this beloved underdog story that I think would be very neat. And I agree with you. I'm also watching USA, Czechia. I want to make sure I'm saying
Czechia.
Yeah. I mean they've got David Krejci.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And in a tournament like this, a talent of that magnitude might just run the roost, rule the roost. I should say.
Rule the roost. Yeah.
Yeah. Run the table, rule the roost. I get my my little homilies
your
mixed
metaphors
up.
mixed. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
or your adages.
Yes.
Right.
So I think that I'm excited to see Canada, but not as excited as I am when the no. But I think what you lose in the quality of play, you gain in uncertainty. Which is nice. It's nice to be uncertain. Who knows? Who knows? Like last time Germany almost won the thing. Yeah.
Like they were a late goal away from winning the gold medal.
They could be an underdog as well.
Yeah, of course they could be. Of course they could be. So, I think that's where you sort of hang your hat on these Olympics. It's like, we have no idea who's going to be good, who's not going to be good. It's going to take, a couple of games for them to all sort of figure it out.
Yeah.
So I think there's a certain amount of intrigue there that makes it exciting and interesting.
You're talking to a person from the superhero movie generation, okay? We want to know who wins.
Oh, okay.
Yes. No, I'm just teasing. But no, like for more Olympic stuff, it should be said, your friends there at the Hockey News, Ryan and Matt, for the Hockey News podcast, did a really exceptional breakdown of every single team.
Yeah, they did a deep dive for sure.
Yeah. But, for us, it's just...
Yeah. I don't think you want to go too deep because you'll probably lose people.
Yeah. Let's talk more about China.
I'll be interested to find out what the numbers are going to be like, what the TV numbers are going to be like.
That would be a very interesting thing. I agree with you.
Yeah.
So going from an Olympic tournament or a side of the Olympic tournament where we have no idea who's going to be good and who's going to be not, let's talk about the side where we have a pretty decent idea as to who's good and who's not. And that's the women's hockey.
Right.
Canada, USA are, it's just not even close. And is there anything that you think can be done about that?
Well, I think there's something that has to be done about it.
Yeah.
I see some real warning signs and red flags right now.
Right.
In this game. One of them is that in this tournament, they deliberately made the format that the top 5 teams would be in the same division and the next 5 teams would be in the other division.
Right.
So, Canada and USA aren't beating up on Denmark and Czechia here, or Russia even. They are. Russia was in their group.
Russia's
but, those teams, or Japan or China, they're not beating up on them. They're beating up on Finland.
Yeah.
They're beating up on teams that are supposed to be the 3rd, 4th, and 5th best teams in the world. And those games they're not competitive.
Yeah.
They're just not.
Yeah.
So to me, and the other thing I think that raises some alarm bells is what's going on with Finland. You probably could chalk it up to the fact that the coach left Nuora Ratu, the goalie, off the team, and it's really thrown that whole thing into disarray.
Right.
So maybe I'll give that to them. That maybe there's a dynamic to that team that's not working right now. But to me, for them to lose to Switzerland, that to me is really concerning because they were one of the teams that was going to give Canada and USA a fight in 2019. They were a controversial goal away from winning the gold medal over the US. Yeah. In 2006, Sweden won the silver medal, and now they're fighting to stay in the top 10 teams.
Yeah.
So to me, I think, a lot of this comes from the fact that Rosie DiMano of the Toronto Star wrote a piece the other day saying that women's hockey should be taken out of the tournament because it's not competitive enough. And, the blowback was swift and predictable.
Decisive.
And
yes.
predictable.
Yeah.
But to me, that's one end of the spectrum. But the other end of the spectrum is no. Everything's fine. Look at all these women who are doing these great things, and look at when Canada plays USA, how exciting it is and everything. To think that there's nothing wrong, to think that that everything is great on the global stage for women's hockey, I think is really, really profoundly dangerous. Because it's not. It's just not. I watched some of those games, and if you can watch the non-US Canada games and say that is something that's Olympic caliber competition, well, then I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what games you're watching because they're not.
Yeah.
Because they're not. And so it's got to get better. It's got to get better. And the people whose job it is to improve this game at a global level have been negligent in their duties.
Yeah.
They really have. And so what does it? Okay, well, some think a pro league will do it. I'm not so sure that does it, because if you have a pro league, you're going to have maybe 4, 5, 6, let's say it's a 6-team pro league, right? Where the players are paid and they're paid a living wage and they're treated as pros and they can do that. Okay. So, the vast majority of that league is going to be Canadian and US players with a few others sprinkled in there. So I don't know that helps develop hockey in other countries. It's got to come down to the federations, I mean, in 2019, Sweden had a massive player revolt because they were so upset about how their women players were being treated in comparison to the men.
Right.
And that's Sweden. That's Sweden. Man, that's a social democracy you're talking about, man. Yeah. I mean, if they're doing that in Sweden, what are they doing in Russia and, China, and that sort of thing. So to me, it's got to start at home, and these federations have to step up, and they've got to get some domestic leagues going. They've got to get grassroots programs going. They've got to bring in people like Carla McLeod. I can't remember what. Anyways, the former player for Canada who went over to China and coached for a couple of years. They've got to have people going over there and spreading the game and teaching the game and having good grassroots programs, because Olympic sports come and go. So I don't think it's a given that that women's hockey is going to stay in the Olympics forever. Yeah. Although it does give 10 countries 25 female athletes, which really is a positive in terms of the gender equity side of things. Yeah. So that does help. But I mean, at some point you got to, it took a long time. It took a long time for the men to do it. Mm-hmm. And it's taken a long time. I mean, look at basketball in Canada. Yeah. I mean, and soccer in Canada for that matter. Canadian men were fodder for the longest time, and now they're among the elite countries, right? Yeah. So it takes time, but you've got to see some forward progress. And not only do I not see forward progress, I see a regression, and that's what worries me.
Yeah. So it should be mentioned, you did write more in depth about this on your Substack.
Right.
So again, if that's something that interests you, then check it out at kencampbell.substack.com. And, I think it's funny because you haven't seen my answer to this, but you kind of touched on it and brushed it aside.
Okay.
But I was going to say a true professional league in North America, it provides something to work towards. And here's what I'm going to tell you. I used to canoe for the Bombay Beach Canoe Club.
Okay.
And I competed nationally, and a knee injury knocked me out when I was a midget.
How does a knee injury stop you from paddling a canoe?
You're on one knee the whole time.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So if that knee goes, you're in very bad shape.
Okay.
Yeah. I had issues with my meniscus in that knee.
Okay.
From paddling. But okay. I did know a young woman who's maybe about a year older than me at the time.
Why didn't you just go on the other knee?
No. That's like telling a hockey player to just shoot on the other side. Okay. Like it's a natural thing, right?
Yeah, I'm being completely ignorant here. So, yeah. Okay.
You don't know about the most niche sport in the world? So anyways, she was the best canoeer in Canada.
Right.
And she basically just gave it up at 17.
Oh, jeez.
Because there was no Olympics women canoeing.
Right.
There was Olympics women kayaking. And so last year was the first year that last Summer Olympics was the first year that there was Olympics women canoe teams.
Right.
And so, and I saw that, and it made me happy to see this, but it also kind of made me sad thinking about this young woman that I grew up with, and we trained together, and we'd go down to Florida in the winters to go and train at some weird trailer park that we'd, rent out and stuff like this, right, with our team. And the point is that there was no goal for her.
Right.
She basically won an age category above her at the Canadian Nationals, and that was as good as it gets.
Right.
And of course, then we're talking about Steve Giles, Adam Van Couverton in terms of for kayak and canoe. They're the tops of the pack. They're the creme de la creme of their generation, right? So Canada was the best, or one of the top countries for canoeing and kayaking, and she won in Canada, and that's about it.
Right.
So as a 17-year-old, she had to turn around and say, well, I guess I'm done now.
Yeah, yeah.
And so without a professional league, you've got possibly, I'm assuming, lots of women around the world that are playing hockey at 14, playing hockey at 16, and then just thinking like, do I start getting serious about my degree here? And of course, North America has the NCAA program, so that's a good avenue for women's sports. But around the world, in Finland and Sweden and Russia and China, you're going to be starting to think to yourself, do I start getting more serious about school, or do I continue to work out for 2 hours a day and skate for an hour a day and, and skills coach for 3 hours a week on Saturdays? And there comes a point where it's just a lot of commitment for no possible avenue of success.
Yeah, but are the women in Europe doing those things? I don't know. Maybe they are. Maybe they are getting skills training a couple hours a week or something like that. But to me, that's where you have to, that's where it has to change. Is there has to be that commitment, right?
Right.
And you know what? I'm with you on a pro league, right? There needs to be a pro league. There
really you're not saying that there shouldn't be a pro league.
There needs to be a pro league. Okay, so I'm just spitballing this here, but so if you're going to have a pro league, then maybe you have a North American draft and a European draft, and you have to draft 3 players from every other top hockey country, and they got to be on your roster, and they got to be regular players who get to play.
Yeah.
So then you get the best Japanese and the best Chinese and the best Finnish players going up against the Marie-Philippe Poulins and the Hillary Knights, and they're trying to and they're practicing with them, and they're playing with them, and they're playing against them, and that's how they get better. And then they go back home to their national teams, and they're better players. And then these girls in these countries have someone to look up to and say, maybe I can do that.
Right. Exactly.
Then that's I can get on board. I can definitely get on board with that.
It's funny because your idea of doing this 2 separate draft system is exactly the opposite of what they do in Europe, which is that they say you're only allowed to have X amount of not quotas.
But I would say reverse the quotas. Yeah. You have to have so many players. There have to be so many. There's a pool of, what? So what do we have? So Canada and U.S. So then you've got the 8. Let's say you take the 8 top countries in the world.
Yeah.
From there, so you're 3 to 10. You got to take 3 players. So that's 24 players, right? You have 6 teams, so 4 players from those countries have to be on each and every roster.
Yeah.
If they're your 4th line and they don't see a lot of ice time, I'm not sure that helps, but that's what you got to do. That's what you got to do. That's what you got to do. Yeah. Yeah.
And to my point earlier, for the 15-year-old and the 14-year-old, where you're at a time where you now have to decide, am I serious or am I not?
Right.
Because that's the age. You need to be doing it your whole life.
Yeah.
But that's the age where you've got to turn around and say, am I in the gym 10 hours a week?
Yeah.
Am I doing skills coaching? Am I doing whatever? I've got my youngest goalie student is 7.
Wow. He's probably better than you too.
No comment. He's more energetic, I'll give you that. My youngest goalie student is 7.
Okay.
And his mom is asking me, she asked me if I think that he can make the NHL. I know. It's bonkers. And I said,
you should just tell her yes, but he has to be on the ice with me every single day for 3 hours, and you have to pay $100 an hour.
Yeah.
And you know what? She'd probably say, okay.
Well, what I told her was that you can tell that he has natural athletic ability. That's all you can tell with a 7-year-old. But do you go into your kid's grade 1 class and say to the teacher, do you think my son could be a brain surgeon? Yeah.
Or he could be a brilliant attorney or I don't know.
Well, but this is the thing. And of course, Carey Price didn't start playing ice hockey until he was 12 or 13.
Yeah.
I was a late bloomer athletically myself. I was picked last in dodgeball at 13. And then by 15, I was starter on the varsity football team.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if somebody saw me at 7, they'd say, hey, feel free to give it up.
Yeah.
So, and they probably would have saved me a lot of heartache. So do we move on? I think we've
I believe we do.
I think we've covered the Olympics. As of Monday, Jack Eichel, remember him?
Ooh.
Yeah, he began practicing with the Vegas Golden Knights without a non-contact sweater. And the team says he could be in the lineup within 10 days. What are the Golden Knights going to have to do to fit him under the salary cap?
Okay, first thing I want to say is I'm so glad that you read that question the way I wrote it.
Yep.
I said a non-contact sweater. Not a jersey. It's not a jersey. It's a sweater. It's a hockey sweater, not a jersey.
Yeah.
No, it is. It is.
My biggest gripe about you when you were on the Hockey News podcast was the amount of time wasted on the sweater jersey thing. So I'll just say you have it.
It's not wasted time. It's very important. Anyways, yeah. So Jack Eichel. Wow. So, they're over the cap right now.
Yep.
They've got Jack Eichel and Alec Martinez
on their way back
on LTIR who are coming back.
Yep.
The conspiracy theorist in me says in a couple of days or a week, we're going to hear that Jack Eichel had a major setback.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to hear.
Yeah.
Oh, he's had a setback. He was on his way and he was in the weight room and he tweaked something and now we're not sure when he's coming back.
Yeah.
Probably sometime around the playoffs would be a good time to project.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think you've got that possibility.
Yeah.
Aside from trading an Evgeny Dadonov, a Riley Smith.
Yeah.
There's that. Do you take on somebody who's on LTIR right now somewhere else?
Yeah.
Like a Ryan Kessler, I guess.
Right.
And get that dead cap space and pay him and don't worry about it and then get it back in terms of how you can replace it, that sort of thing. It'll be interesting to see what they do, but it's going to be really difficult. It's going to be really, really interesting to see what kind of gymnastics they can perform to make this happen.
I have a solution that is beautiful in its simplicity.
Yeah, don't have a salary cap.
Trade Jack Eichel. The Vegas Golden Knights are notorious for one thing, which is nobody is safe on their roster.
Exactly.
And I see no reason why Jack Eichel should be any different.
Yeah.
Frankly, what has he done to the organization to date?
Not much.
Not a whole lot.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Didn't even show up for the All-Star game. Couldn't even be an All-Star. Yeah. Okay, so to your point, you said traded Dadonov or Riley Smith. And I mean, this is the thing with this team, because we were both scrolling down the cap friendly page. There is no dead cap space.
No.
Your top paid players are like Mark Stone, Alex Pietrangelo, Max Pacioretty.
Right.
I think in that order. I could be wrong. But so if like those are the guys that you want as your top paid players. And now, of course, Jack Eichel will enter that conversation at some point. But like those are your three best players. And then as you go down that list, there's nobody that you go, wow, he's making more money than he's worth, because lower on their defense charts, you're talking about guys making $1 million.
Yeah, maybe Laurent Brossoit at 2.3.
Right, which is their backup goaltender. And so if you turn around and say, we have utmost confidence in Leonard's health, which, I mean, they should. I don't think that he's been injured at all this year or even last year. So maybe, sure, you say you've got utmost confidence in Leonard's health and you can bring in a guy off of waivers to just sit in for a few games for Leonard to rest. Yeah. But it's, there's not a lot. There's no dead money, so to speak,
right?
On this team.
I, you think of a guy like Riley Smith, and you think, original guy, part of the Golden Misfits, part of that line that was, the with Marchand and Carlson, and so he's part of the fabric of the organization and everything. But to your point, they've proved that doesn't
mean anything to them.
Jack poop, right? Sometimes. Yeah. Especially with the way they dealt with Marc-Andre Fleury. after winning the Vezina Trophy, and then just basically trading him away.
That was unbelievable.
Yeah. So I get that Riley Smith is a pretty big component of this team, and that he's been a soldier for a few years, but that doesn't seem to be something that really is part of the whole thinking there. So I mean, maybe he's a guy that would be gone as a rental. Like he'd be a rental because he's an unrestricted free agent. So yeah,
Dadonov has another year.
Yeah,
before UFA, $5 million. They're both making $5 million.
Right.
It still doesn't clear all the cap space you need.
No, it doesn't.
Right.
So that hence the owie that Jack Eichel might have in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
Next couple of days.
Yeah, he'll have what medical professionals will be known as Trump ankles. They can keep you out of Vietnam and they can keep you out of cap space hell.
But then, after April 29th, amazingly, they heal up. They heal up.
Right.
And you're right.
Exactly.
You're good to go.
Yeah. My follow-up question to this, though, is cap space implications aside, will Jack Eichel, if he plays on this line, and I see no reason why he shouldn't, but will Jack Eichel, Max Pacioretty, and Mark Stone be the best line in hockey immediately?
Oh, jeez.
There's an argument to be made that they should.
Well, yeah, but you have to see what they're going to accomplish first, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Jack hasn't played in how long? How long has it been since he's played?
Year and a half.
Yeah. So there's going to be an adjustment period there, I would think.
Yeah.
I mean, they certainly have the potential to be.
I'll tell you, if I hadn't played for a year and a half.
Special line. Like I look forward to what Max Pacioretty can do.
Oh.
Like the goals that he can score.
Yeah.
With a guy like Jack Eichel feeding him, and a guy like Mark Stone digging the pucks out.
Yeah.
Mark Stone goes in, digs the puck out, gets the takeaway, gets it to Jack Eichel. Jack Eichel hands it off to Max Pacioretty, who's in a perfect scoring area. Like that is, wash, rinse, repeat. We could see that a lot of that.
Yeah. And all three of those guys, excellent on the rush. All three of those guys, excellent defensively. Like, so, and so to your point about Pacioretty and Jack Eichel, the joke in Montreal is that Pacioretty said about David Desharnais that Desharnais was the best center he'd ever played with, right?
Yeah.
And when you really look at Pacioretty's career, you think that might actually still be true because he's been playing with like Chandler Stevenson, who's having a good year and he's a good player. But in terms of like a playmaker, a guy like Desharnais got 60 points, put up 60 points when he was playing with Pacioretty, right? And so you put Pacioretty with Jack Eichel. You say Pacioretty can put up 39 goals playing with David Desharnais.
Yeah. He
can put up 39 goals and be your number one unit penalty killer. Mark Stone is the epitome of if somebody made a Selke Trophy winner in a lab,
right? In
my opinion, they would come out with Mark Stone.
Mark Stone with better wheels.
Okay, fair enough. The knock on him is better wheels. Igor, go get the wheels.
But no, I mean that's going to be a scary unit for sure.
So you've got three guys that you could basically give every defensive zone draw to. And every defensive zone draw could turn into a goal for your team. Mm-hmm. And virtually none of them would turn into a goal for the other team. It's just, it's a scary unit. The fact that Jack Eichel will be the weak one defensively on that unit.
Yeah.
And he's not weak defensively.
Yeah.
Like, that's wild. So none of those three guys will have played with a player better than the other two guys that they'll be playing with.
Right.
I've heard people say, well, put Eichel with the Dadonov or I've heard people like, don't galaxy brain it. Don't overthink it. Just put this incredible, amazing line together that could be the best line in hockey. Why wouldn't you do that?
Right. Well, I mean, the Bruins are sort of toying with that right now, putting Pasternak with Taylor Hall and Eric Holla.
Right.
And it's worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
Like they've done very, very well together instead of loading everything up all in one line.
Yeah.
Having a bit more depth there. But
yeah. But I mean, when you've got Marchand Riley Smith, the third guy, Carlson, as your second line. William Carlson, that's right.
7 goals this year, or 11. What is it? What's William Carlson got?
Would have to look that up. But when you've got that as your second line,
yeah.
And then you've got Chandler Stevens, Dadonov, and somebody else as your third line, you're in a pretty good place.
Yeah.
People, I don't think that a lot of people are thinking about Vegas because they've had an up and down year. But if
I'm not a believer. I'm not a believer.
I'm becoming one.
I'm just not. I don't even know why. That's what bugs me so much is I look at that team and I go, no, they're not going to win. Well, why? I don't know why, but it just seems like there's something missing there. And for me, a big part of it is that I call it the chasing the shiny new thing syndrome.
Yeah.
And they just do that all the time, and they never allow themselves to get settled and to have a group that sort of stays together for a long time before, Alex Pietrangelo. Well, we don't necessarily need a defenseman like him, but you know what? We're going to go out and get him anyways, right?
Yeah. That's what I love about the
Robin
team,
Leonard. They go get Robin Leonard when they already have a goalie. They go get Jack Eichel when they've already paid everybody a bunch of money.
Yeah.
Like I just don't feel like they ever get into a groove, And I don't know. I'm not a believer in that team.
It's the meshing that you have an issue with.
I think that's part of it. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so we'll see.
So before we get out of here, is there anything at all to say about Rocky Wirtz at this point?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of things to say. What do you want to talk about?
Like, there's just been so much said about it that,
Yeah, and it's old news now because it happened, of course, the day that we did the podcast last time or something. Yeah. So it's been like a week.
We're the sober second thought. We're the Senate of podcasts at this point.
Not always sober, but most of the time.
Certainly second.
Yes. So to me, this whole issue... Rocky Wirtz said what he said. It was like a week ago. Unfortunately,
exactly a week ago.
Yeah, it was unfortunately the same day we did this podcast and afterwards. So we haven't had a chance to address it yet. He said what he said. He did what he did. It was terrible. To me, the issue now is how the NHL chose to deal with it and how Gary Bettman chose to deal with it. And I was appalled. I was absolutely appalled at how the NHL dealt with this whole situation.
Yeah.
To slough it off as a moment, like that's what he said, and that's why I said it earlier in the podcast, right?
Yeah.
Like to slough it off as him having a moment, like that's we've had the time, and that's what we're going with here.
Yeah.
Is he had a moment?
Yeah.
Players have moments all the time. Coaches get fined for having moments. The New York Rangers had a moment last year when they criticized George Peros. Just because he had a moment doesn't mean that he's absolved of any wrongdoing, and the fact that he put out some kind of apology.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at it and you go, oh, the guy is one of Gary Bettman's most trusted allies. Oh, he's on the executive committee of the Board of Governors. Oh, he's on the finance and audit committee of the Board of Governors, the two most powerful committees on the Board of Governors. He's like among the most powerful of the most powerful.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I was really, really disappointed. Like, to say it's a moment and to say, they're doing all these great things, and that was a bail. That was a huge bail.
Everything's been said about it. There's nothing more for me to say. It was stupid. It was incredible that he did not come up with an answer to that question the first time that he was speaking publicly.
Yeah.
But none of this is even me saying it, because it's been said a million times, either on Twitter, on other podcasts, etc. The only thing that I'll say, and I'll add to this, is that his son's name is Danny, right? It was Danny that tried to speak up.
Yeah.
And he hushed.
Yeah.
I hope that Danny saw that and said, what we all say at some point in our lives. I never want to become my father.
Yeah.
Because I think that Danny was genuinely embarrassed.
Of course he was. First of all, the question was directed to him.
Right.
And Rocky stepped in, and then he tried to assuage people. He tried to make something, chicken soup out of chicken poop, right? And he tried to jump in there and do the right thing, and then got completely shot down and completely shut down.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like, wow, like really, how much power do I have? None.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that the fact that he tried, like I'm just an optimistic guy by nature, and so the fact that he tried, and the fact that he tried to stand up to his dad, and the fact that he's more in charge of day-to-day operations, I think is hopefully a good omen. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
As far as Rocky goes, like what more can I say? It was gross. It's stupid.
Yeah.
It was reprehensible that he blamed Kyle Beach for his organization's misdeeds. Oh yeah. Like that's like the definition of victim blaming.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you
and
you put it in a dictionary, you just say see Rocky Wirtz.
And Gary Bettman was right on with that. He was right on board with that, because
exactly.
he said and you know what? I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that he probably would have used different words, but the optics were terrible. Where he said because of Kyle Beach and because of what happened to Kyle Beach, this organization has been through so much, and it's been frustrating and emotional, and like, wow, you had a couple of days to figure this one out, and that's what you came up with. And
that's exactly what I was going to say, is that he had a couple of days. These weren't just the first words that came to his head. The camera didn't just pan to Gary Bettman, who tried to settle the waters at that point.
Right.
This was like Gary Bettman, like, okay, what should I do?
Yeah.
Who should I blame this on? The communists? No. No. Let's see. Oh, the victim. The victim of the whole affair. So, whatever.
Yep.
Anything else you want to cover before we get out of here?
No, I think that's it. I think we're good.
We're good here. All right. Well, thanks so much for watching or listening to this point. If you want this directly into your inbox and other writing from Ken, subscribe to kencampbell.substack.com. You can check us out on Twitter, Ken_Campbell27, or me @_Dylan Waugh, WAUGH, and check out this podcast. And please don't forget to leave a rating, a subscription. Anything you like is always appreciated.